Hi. Today we will be attempting the one and only Rick Riordan's writing routine. As a huge Percy Jackson fan, it felt like a gap in the YouTube space that I have not seen people do Rick's writing routine. And so today we are fixing that and we are going to be writing like our man Rick. You know that question that people ask writers sometimes of like, if you could point to one book or series growing up that made you realize you wanted to be a writer? If I was going to be forced to answer that question, Percy Jackson would 100% be what I would say. This was like the formative series of my childhood. I love Rick. As far as I know, he's unproblematic, hopefully, unlike a fair few of writers. Now, this writing routine is coming from an Instagram post 2 years ago. I will not be accepting any comments about the sketchiness of this source. But according to this, Rick is most productive in the morning, but he doesn't have a regular schedule. Some days he writes for 10 hours, other days he writes for 30 minutes. He'll work for a few minutes at a time, do some chores or light exercise, and then write again for a few more minutes. I thought this was interesting because it seems like essentially what Rick is doing is like a Pomodoro without it technically being a Pomodoro, breaking up writing sprints with like other productivity sprints. And I know Sarah LeBrat does this. She'll write for like a sprint and then as her break, she'll take like a productive break. So instead of like going on her phone, consuming some other media, she'll do something that uses her hands and her body, but not her brain. So that's what we're going to be doing today. If you are new here and you don't know me, my name is Brielle. I'm an aspiring indie author and I'm currently working on what is going to be my debut fantasy novel. The book is titled Unraveling and it is the first book of a duology that I'm working on. My book is a new adult fantasy with enemies to lovers romance and dystopian vibes. And for the first time ever, I have a one-sentence log line to share with you. Shocking, right? Rhea Whittaker, a jaded girl living in Callahan's oppressive capital, embarks on a forbidden journey with the ruler's disgraced son for a chance to give her sister a better life. Whip, of course, but yeah, that's what my book's about. We are currently on draft 2. I do have some updates on draft 2. The last few days I've been low-key going a little bit hard with the revising. I officially paused my progress towards the end of the book, which I talked about this in a recent vlog, but essentially I want to save the last few chapters of this book for the end of the month so that I can finish draft 2 with the end of the book. Like I just feel like that will be more satisfying. So I've decided to go back to the beginning and tweak the first 5 chapters, which is something that I've known that I've wanted to do for a while. I actually got some beta reader feedback from my friends Mick, Amina, and Andy. Several months ago at this point, I made a whole video talking about reacting to that beta reader feedback. That feedback was only on the first 5 chapters. It was like a really quick decision to send it out to these 3 people, but they did give me some great feedback that just kind of got my gears turning about the introduction of this book. And so I kind of knew that I wanted to potentially rework things / restructure things a little bit. I knew I wanted to potentially add an entire chapter as well as really flesh out the first chapter, like the opening scene of my main character and the love interest on their like forced date. And then I was kind of trying to rework chapter 1 at writing group the other day and I was just getting really stuck. I was having a hard time implementing the feedback that I got on that chapter and I knew that there was something at the root of it. Like clearly something wasn't working about this opening chapter, but I couldn't crack how to make it work. And then I showed it to Caitlin from my writing group and she suggested maybe this shouldn't be chapter 1, which threw me for a loop because this opening chapter was the very first thing that I knew about this book. It was the first thing that came to me, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. And her logic was, I think this main chapter, this sort of like throwing us right into the inciting incident basically, isn't quite working because we don't yet know this character or this world. And so we don't have any bearings to care about what's happening in this first chapter. Like it's very dramatic and punchy what's going on in this chapter, but we're not invested yet. And I think first chapters is something that's so hard to see as the writer, like objectively, because you just know too much to know whether or not you're getting the reader hooked. Like I know these characters, so I'm really invested on their like little banter and their origins of their relationship. But that doesn't necessarily mean the reader will be unless I give them grounds to care. And so now I'm playing with a new first chapter of completely fresh material to try and give us a little sense of this world, the potential danger of it, as well as some of our main characters' family dynamics right off the bat. So I am playing with that. It's a fun little scene where our main character and her sister like break curfew and go to a lake. And so it's kind of like a fun scene, but there are stakes because they like almost get caught and stuff. And we get a sense that like the rules in this society are super strict and there's like guards patrolling and all of that. So that's what I'm working on. The word count of this book it's going up. I think we're at like 95K or something crazy. So I think today, as we are attempting Rick's routine, I would love to get a finished first pass on this chapter 1. Like, this is all fresh material, so I'm not going to put crazy standards on how, figured out this scene has to be, but I would like to at least get the bones of how I want it to progress done in this draft. So what I'm thinking we're going to start off with is maybe 30-minute writing sprints intercut with like a 15-minute break. And I think we're going to do like a couple rounds of that. But first, I feel like we need a little iced coffee, a little fuel to get us going. I feel like to honor Rick, we should have this box set on my desk. I do, in fact, own all of the Heroes of Olympus books. By the way, I've not only read this series, I did read the entire Heroes of Olympus series, which is like the spinoff of Percy Jackson. The number of covers that I've seen on this series, every time in my entire life that I've gone into a bookstore and checked out the young adult section, these books have been rebranded. And frankly, my favorite covers are still the very original one. These are gorgeous though. Don't get me wrong. I think I have an attachment to the originals. Something that I think is interesting when it comes to authors' writing routines is I think that there's always an assumption from like the public that anyone who's very successful at a thing probably has a very specific ritualistic routine. And I'm guilty of this too. Like I'm always expecting when I'm researching a writing routine that it's going to be like something crazy elaborate. Like, okay, first I wake up at the crack of dawn and then I sit down at my desk and I lock the door and I don't let anyone speak to me for 4 hours and I only write for 4 hours. And then I do like an elaborate meditation and like this is what I'm picturing when I'm thinking of like a successful author's writing routine is something very specific and like almost quirky. But a lot of writers, I feel like their routine is pretty simple. Maybe they have a like preferred time of day to write, but I feel like most of them don't write for the same amount of time every day. Rick's routine, like, I thought it was interesting. That's obviously why I'm doing it. But it's nothing, like, ridiculous. You know what I mean? He doesn't have any crazy rituals, at least not according to this post. I just think it's a good reminder that, like, you can keep it a little simpler when it comes to, like, a writing routine. You don't even necessarily need to have a routine and still be very successful. Anyway, we're gonna put the box set up. Gorgeous. And get our writing station all set up. For timers, I'm gonna either do phone timers or Discord sprints, depending on whether any of my friends would be interested in writing with me. Maybe I'll put some feelers out and see if anyone's around. I literally just sent this message in Discord. It's the dog profile photo for me. Oh my god, someone join me. I'm not alone. Gotta love the slightly insane Google searches. This scene is really intense. I jumped right back in at a point where she's holding her sister underwater and her sister is like violently shaking as like a flashlight is cutting through the lake. and they're like running out of air. It's like kind of crazy. It's also low-key kind of freeing to be like drafting new material. Like I think part of the reason why I was feeling so stuck with the beginning of this book is because I feel like I was getting really fatigued with what was on the page, and I feel like sometimes what you need when you're just like stuck is to just try something new, just to see what happens and like take the pressure off of it a little bit. Okay, we've completed the first sprint. I ended up admittedly working a little bit longer than 30 minutes because I kind of got in the flow. And so I did a few extra minutes of work and effectively got us, and by us I mean my characters, out of the lake and back home. And we're gonna do our first little productive break. I'm gonna do like a tiny bit of yoga for this one. I thought it'd be fun to catch you guys up on how this scene is going as I do a little bit of stretching. I feel like the hardest thing with this scene so far has just been the fact that I'm trying to simultaneously establish that this world is like dangerous and there's like real risks and high stakes, but I'm also trying to establish my character's mental state, and she doesn't have a ton of regard for her own life. That's a bit of a weird balance to try to strike, is like, how do I establish that this character doesn't have a ton of fear personally because of her mental state, but that other people are terrified and that this is objectively a scary situation? Because people react to like, wow, tough societies differently. Like you have like the realists, you have the people that are checked out, you have the people who like want to escape and like go somewhere else. I feel like a great example of this is the Hunger Games, and low-key I've been like looking to the Hunger Games more and more for inspiration, because while the general plot of this book is not at all similar to the Hunger Games, the world is in a decent number of ways. She has some, I feel like, resemblance to Katniss, and her relationship with her sister is very central, which is kind of a parallel to the Hunger Games. So I feel like the way that I'm going to try to establish like our character, but also this world at the same time, is by leveraging the fact that she is with another character. So in this case, she's with her sister, and by having her sister have like a really fearful reaction to the close call that happens with them in this scene, so that we can see, while our main character might be a little bit more calm and collected, her sister is terrified and like freezes up and can't speak. I feel like with this whole beginning, I'm really, trying to consult my trusted people. I'm very wary of getting too many opinions and like too many cooks in the kitchen and then confusing myself. Also, I'm making a conscious effort to not go on my phone during this break, because I feel like part of the point of Rick's routine and the way that he described it was taking breaks that give you some time to like regroup without immediately going for a distraction. So yeah, I'm gonna do a few little stretches on this yoga mat and then we'll keep it going with the writing. We're back at the desk now. I just made some lunch because I was getting shaky, which is never a good sign. I'm gonna eat some food, drink some water, try to like get some life back in me, and we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna do at least one more writing sprint, and then I'm thinking we're gonna keep this routine going tomorrow. But the scene is going well. I'm about to write the interaction with the dad, and I already really enjoy the description that I have for him. This is gonna be his first time entering the page, and I feel like it says a lot in like one sentence, which I like. But yeah, now I need to figure out how to like navigate this whole scene. I'm leaning towards like a disappointed, not angry vibe. Good morning! Happy day 2 of the Rick Riordan writing routine. I thought it'd be fun to make some blueberry pancakes because blue food is like a whole thing within the Percy Jackson series. Also, I just looked at the best used by date of this and it is December 2023. So I think we're gonna go pick up a fresh box of pancake mix for this. Quick little update. I kind of cut off filming a bit abruptly yesterday. If we're being so for real, the mental health was just not mental healthing last night. And sometimes it'd be like that. I'm trying to practice a level of acceptance and just try to focus on like comforting myself whenever I'm in a bit of a slump, instead of overthinking why I'm in the slump or like really trying to analyze it and get myself out of it. I low-key feel like the best thing I could do for myself is just be sweet and kind and gentle to myself and try to take it a little bit more relaxed and just accept that sometimes this happens. I have been making a bit of an effort lately to open up a little bit more about the kind of struggles side of writing, and I feel like my channel and like the overall channel message is very positive. Like, I very much consider myself to be an optimist, and I always try to approach my videos with like good energy. Like, I try generally not to film if I'm in a slump or like I'm feeling negative, because I want, you know, the message of my videos to be positive and uplifting. I want you to leave one of my videos excited and motivated to work on your project. Like, that's my goal. That's like my purpose behind making content, is to like motivate people to go after their dreams, you know? But I think it's unfair and like an incomplete picture to not also talk about this side of things, where the self-doubt is really like taking over, or you're just feeling really insecure or uncertain about your book. And like, this is a real part of the process. My friend Holly from my writing group always says, do it scared. And I think that that is so important and something that I'm trying to hold more dear lately. My friend Amina also talked about this in a recent video. Like, the act of showing up and putting yourself out there and being seen trying to make art is brave, and it takes a lot of guts. And sometimes that can wear on you a little bit and you just need like a beat. So if you're having those feelings as a writer, rest assured that that is so normal, and it does not mean that you're not cut out for this. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep going. You absolutely should. Just know that it's literally part of the process. There's way too many blueberries. There are way too many blueberries for the amount of batter. Okay, I hope this helps. We're gonna try this. Okay, we're gonna hope that we salvaged it. I'm gonna keep an eye on this pancake while we catch up on what's been happening writing-wise. So successfully yesterday, I did manage to get to the end of this new chapter 1 that I've been working on. And then I sent it off to my friend Mick, which I'm not usually the type of writer that like is sending off chapters frequently. She's one of the critiquers that kind of instigated the changes that I wanted to make. Yeah, so I've been sending her like changes I've been making just for kind of like a gut check. Like, hey, do you think that this is kind of achieving what needs to be achieved at the beginning of this book? Because she knows quite a bit about the concept at this point. And she really affirmed that she thinks this new chapter 1 is accomplishing multiple goals. Yeah, I'm feeling really good about that. And especially knowing how much I really tried. Like, I really tried with this new opening. I now need to work on chapters 3 through 6, which there is changes that need to be made. There's an entire scene I want to add, but low-key, I feel pretty equipped to make these changes. I'm clear on what I want to do with these chapters. So I'm hoping today we can get through tweaking chapter 3, which was formerly chapter 2. This is where I think a lot of the changes are happening. This is where I'm adding potentially the fresh scene. And pretty much everything that happens, at least in the first half of this chapter, needs to go. It no longer makes sense with how I'm changing and altering the events of the story. And even the dialogue that happens between our characters and stuff needs tweaking. So it's gonna need an overhaul, but I'm feeling ready to do it. And I'm gonna do it with a delicious blueberry pancake in hand. Let's try to flip this thing. Oh no, it's sticking. Uh-oh. Oh no, it's sticking. It could be worse. Honestly, it really could be worse. She ain't pretty, but she does look kind of blue, at least. I'm gonna chill eat my blueberry pancakes, and then we're gonna get to writing. Okay, so we're gonna sit down and work. Continuing on with Rick's schedule today, I'm gonna try something a little bit different than yesterday. So yesterday I was doing 30-minute sprints. Today we're gonna try a more flexible and maybe smaller chunks strategy. So up until my friends FaceTime me, because then when that happens, I will be, doing whatever length of sprints they want to do. I'm thinking I'm going to try just literally writing for a few minutes. And then as soon as I just feel like, hey, I want to get up and move a little bit, going and like either doing a chore or taking a walk. Like I would love to walk over and get a drink at some point. So I'm going to try that more intuitive approach because I noticed something that Rick said in his post was like the length of time that I'm writing for varies. He said like he's writing for a few minutes at a time, which makes it seem like it's maybe shorter sprints. And then he's just like getting up and doing tasks sporadically. So I want to try a less strict interpretation of this writing routine for today, especially because I am feeling a little bit in a funk. I'm like, I think that would be good for me. Okay, we've done a little sprint. Feeling pretty good. I'm putting notes to myself in brackets of things that I want to change. Okay, in this part, you're going to insert this. Make sure you communicate this without suggesting this. Like, I'm getting very specific with like the instructions to myself, and I think that that's helping me not get lost with just like any filler or like things that we don't need to be communicating. Openings are so important, and there's so much that I want to establish about this world, obviously without it being super on the nose. So it's just important that I'm being very clear. I think we're going to take the first little break and I'm going to go on a little walk and get a matcha for this break. That's really what I'm feeling. Matcha has been acquired and it is officially time to FaceTime the girlies. Cheers. My matcha order at Starbucks specifically is venti ice matcha oat milk, no classic, 2 pumps of peppermint. In case you're curious, and it's so good. Hi. Hey. All right, friends, we're going to close out this vlog here with some final thoughts about this writing routine. I think the biggest thing that I'm going to take from kind of testing out Rick's more so philosophy around his writing routine and his like writing practice is I love the like softness and the flexibility that is existing in Rick's writing routine. He doesn't have strict hours that he writes. He is a little bit more intuitive with it. He'll write for a few minutes and then he'll go take a break when he needs it. I think that's going to be something that I'm going to carry with me in writing in the future. I feel like recently I've really been leaning on, 30-minute timed sprints. And this kind of made me realize I would love to take a little bit of a softer approach to writing and just kind of write until it doesn't feel good anymore and then take a break. It sounds obvious, but this was something that I had to realize on the writing retreat that I did and that I feel like I'm having to re-realize is that there is something very freeing and comforting about just being like, I'm just going to sit here until it doesn't feel good anymore and then I'm going to give myself a break. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you got to the end of the video, leave down below a trident emoji. If you are currently working on a manuscript that you would like me to offer developmental feedback on, I do have manuscript critique services I'm currently booking. You can check that out at briellejcruz.com. I will pop a recent client testimonial on the screen right here if you want to see what a recent client said about the services. Manuscript critiques is such a meaningful part of my business and my presence here online, and I've really loved getting to work with indie authors or first-time writers. Having that collaborative experience has been really fulfilling for me, and I've loved some of the projects that I've gotten the chance to work on. So if you want to work together, feel free to check that out down below. I do also have a Patreon page. There's 2 pieces of bonus content currently live on that page, and I'm about to film another 2 pieces to go live in the next few weeks. So if you want to check that out, it's $5 a month to get access to all of that. Thank you so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video very soon. Bye.